Well, I think when Donald Trump was talking about it and disparaging people over here, he was talking about undocumented people who come and drop their anchor babies. He wasn't talking about people who are here on student visas, people who are here on H-1B visas.
You're always going to choose this weird exception.
No,
the fact is the
it's
system
not
is
weird.
being gamed. Americans voted for Donald Trump because they saw these systems, these institutions being gamed. The asylum issue, the birthright citizen issue, Title IX issues. Every single part of society was being gamed by the left. And finally, Americans got pushed too far. The point is, you don't have to like everything in the restaurant to like the restaurant. There are things, I go to a restaurant, I don't eat any seafood, but I like that restaurant because it's got steak. There are things that Trump will do that I will disagree with, but the entire package is as close as you're going to get to what Americans want. Trump is redefining basically what a human being can do in 24 hours. It's incredible. He did more in a day than Biden did in his damn career, and it's exhausting.
The studio crackled with tension as the opening salvo laid bare the ideological chasm. One side framed systemic inequities as deliberate exploitation, while the other weaponized fatigue with bureaucracy into a rallying cry. The audience leaned in, sensing the no-holds-barred tone.
And thank God our freewheeling president is back. After 4 years of press-dodging Joe Biden, President Trump had no trouble mixing it up with the media, casually chatting for over an hour in the Oval Office while he signed one executive order after another. Watch.
Does Biden ever do news conferences like this? How many news conferences, Peter, has he done like this?
Like this?
None.
0. Did President Biden leave you a letter?
He may have. Wait. Don't they leave it in the desk? I don't know. Oh.
What's in there?
Thank you, Peter. It could have been years before we found it. Wow. Thank you.
What does it say on the outside?
Maybe we should all read it together.
Let's read it.
Well, maybe I'll read it first and then make that determination.
That sounds great.
The glorification of Trump's media savvy drew audible groans from the opposing chair. Tarlov interjected, "This isn't governance, it's performance art." But the rebuttal was drowned out by crowing about Biden's hidden letters and scripted evasion. The studio lights burned hotter as the segment teetered between debate and derision.
So one of the things President Trump was doing was not creating new policy. He was getting rid of policies that Biden had put in place that people said they didn't want. And the ending DEI was 70%, so they supported that. Ending the EV mandates, that was 70%. Finishing the border wall and deportation, 70%. Now, they might not have gotten there without Joe Biden's broken border policy. That might have been a lower number, but that's where they were on Election Day. Getting men out of women's sports, that was like an 80-20 issue, maybe even more. And so it wasn't so much that there was like, oh, here's a brand new policy. It was like, here's all these things that you said, America, you did not like for the last 4 years, and how I'm going to be able to make it better.
The recitation of polling data became a battering ram. Tarlov fired back, "Since when did majority opinion justify cruelty?" But her words were buried under chants of 70%. The audience split into factions, cheers and heckles colliding as the segment devolved into a shouting match. A producer's hand hovered over the cut-to-break button.
You mentioned all these challenges they have. Well, welcome to America. Every single one of us has a challenge, but yet we come to work. I'm not going to pay for their porn addiction. If they want to sit home in front of Pornhub and go, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, you know what? Everybody in America could stay home because they have a sick loved one or a baby, but they aren't. They're coming to work. They should go.
Tarlov's voice shook as she defended vulnerable Americans. Her words met with mocking laughter. "Empathy isn't a weakness," she snapped, but the retort triggered a tirade about accountability culture. The camera zoomed in as she gripped the edge of the desk, her knuckles whitening. A stagehand stepped into frame, whispering urgently, but she shook her head. The point of no return neared.
The guy hasn't slept in 2 days. I mean, the thing is, it's amazing. It's possible. It is possible. Donald Trump could complete his presidency in 3 months. Right. And then he could just say, you know what?
Is that a promise?
He goes, you know what? JD, you take it from here. I think I did everything I could do.
The glorification of Trump's sleepless hustle hit a fever pitch, framed as superhuman endurance. Tarlov scoffed, "Governing isn't a sprint, it's a marathon." But the rebuttal was met with dismissive laughter. Gutfeld leaned back, smirking as if daring her to challenge the cult of relentless action. The audience erupted into applause, blurring the line between admiration and fanaticism. Tarlov's retort, "What about stability? What about thought?" was drowned out by chants of 3 months, 3 months.
But then you see somebody like Bill Murray, right? Bill Murray, you ask him for a selfie, he'll sit down and serenade you. Trump could retreat into a protected bubble like Biden did, but he doesn't. And you could say, oh, it's because he loves attention. I disagree. I believe he chooses to love attention because it's better than hating it. There's a difference. There's a difference. If he's chosen to avail himself to the world and refuses to whine about it. It's a really interesting thing.
The comparison to Bill Murray, a man who serenades the public, ignited Tarlov's fury. "Trump isn't charming, he's chaotic," she shot back, her voice rising. "This isn't a rom-com, it's a democracy." But Gutfeld's metaphor stuck, painting Trump's accessibility as heroic and Biden's caution as cowardice. The studio buzzed with tension as the debate veered into pop culture absurdity. Tarlov's final plea, substance over sound bites, faltered as the crowd roared approval for the spectacle.
We all know this is BS, and yet the media is redefining losing every single day. Day one, they say Elon Musk made a Nazi salute.
Right.
And I'm beginning to think, they know they're lying. So why are they doing this? Because they realize they cannot rebuild their credibility. They're like a fat guy on death row. What's the point in dieting? You're already dead.
Looking forward to that last meal.
The fat man on death row analogy detonated the room. Tarlov shot up, slamming her notes. "This is why no one trusts you," she shouted, jabbing a finger across the desk. Two producers materialized, guiding her toward the exit as the rant continued. The camera lingered on her empty seat, the audience's gasps echoing as the screen cut to an abrupt commercial.
Biden was like the letter president. I mean, he actually wrote a letter to the American people, one of his final acts. No one read it. No one cared. Biden didn't even read it.
The final jab at Biden's legacy sealed the segment, leaving viewers with a stark choice, chaos or complacency. But the real story played out in the margins. The silencing of disagreement, the theatrics of conflict, and the audience's hunger for bloodsport over nuance. The clash exposed more than ideological divides. It revealed the mechanics of modern media. Passion is amplified, nuance is erased, and dissent is staged as disruption. Tarlov's removal wasn't just about a heated exchange. It was a metaphor for a culture that rewards conflict over conversation. We saw how polling data becomes propaganda, how empathy is dismissed as indulgence, and how theatrics overshadow truth. From Trump's 3-month presidency boast to Gutfeld's Hollywood-tinged analogies, the episode proved that politics is no longer about policy. It's about persona. When leaders are reduced to caricatures and critics to hecklers, what survives? A public fed on outrage, a discourse stripped of depth, and a democracy gasping for air. Final question for the comments. When debate becomes spectacle, who pays the price? The silenced, the audience, or democracy itself? Stay tuned. Stay skeptical. The next episode is already in production.